All right. So, in the previous podcast, I talked about the importance of consistency and how commitment is one of the biggest things that you need to do in order to be consistent. And commitment is one of the foundational principles of doing something. So, how do you stay committed though? Apparently, in this book, 12-Week Year, there are 4 rules of commitment that one can follow in order to be committed to things. And that is what I want to talk about in this quick little podcast. All right, welcome to the sketchbook. I'm back again with another podcast, and this podcast is all about commitment. So, why the heck do I want to talk about commitment in the first place? One, I'm slowly realizing that consistency is the key to results. And of course, you know this thing, right? You know it. Everyone knows this thing. But most of you're bullshitting yourself, and you know that. You truly are not consistent with 99% of the things that you do. And to be truly consistent, to be consistent is the foundation, and to have the foundational aspects right takes a lot of time and effort and nuance and energy and cutting out all the useless crap that you need to stop doing. So I know that consistency is now important. I'm slowly realizing the importance of consistency. Now I'm understanding, okay, I need to be committed in order to do that. And how do you stay committed? So there are 4 rules of commitment which I came across in this book, 12-Week Year, which I found really interesting. So the first rule is actually having a strong desire towards the thing that you want to be committed towards. You want to have some internal want. You cannot just decide that, hey, you know what? I'm going to commit myself to that thing. Yeah, it works. But to be honest, do you actually want to? Would you actually choose to do it? Are you forcing yourself to do it? Or is it happening on somewhat of a natural or an internal desire-based way, right? So having a strong desire towards a thing that you want to do is important. So example, I have a strong desire to make more art and more YouTube videos, right? And I have a strong desire to make this podcast as well, right? I'm committed to this podcast. I am late this week because, I was doing other things and I was slightly sick, and that is fine. I'm flexible, but I'm also at the same time committed to this thing. So I'm just quickly whipping out my phone and recording what I can record and sharing the things that I need to share this week, right? So yeah, I'm committed to this podcast to that extent. And I have my desire is sort of flexible. So you also want to think of like how much desire, how much of a commitment do you want to make? Do I want to commit myself to making a podcast 3 times a day for the next 3 years? No, right? But I have enough desire to commit to this podcast to record it once a week for 20 minutes for the next, foreseeable future, right? So you want to see how big of a desire that you have for the thing that you want to commit to. For me, for example, I like to draw daily and practice drawing daily. And that means the minimal commitment that I'm giving myself, the desire is at the moment is just 10 to 20 minutes a day. And some days it's like 3 to 4 hours. But the minimal one is 10 to 20 minutes. But I cannot give my minimal commitment as, it's an 8-hour thing. I have the desire to do 8 hours of drawing every day for the next 20 years. No, right? I don't. I want to do other things as well in life. So again, another example, actually, working out. I like to commit to working out for 2 to 3 times a week, strength training in the gym. That is like a minimal commitment. I can do more, but that is a desire that I have. So that is one thing. Commitment is you have to be flexible. And first rule of commitment is you need to have a strong desire towards it, and you need to see the appetite for that desire. That is number 1. Number 2, once you sort of know that the appetite for your desire for a particular commitment, the second rule of commitment, according to this 12-Week Year book, is what are the keystone actions, the keystone habit of those commitments. For example, gym. Twice a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays, I show up for 1 to 1.5 hours in the gym. I've thought about this before. I'd like to go to the gym more frequently, 4 times a week, and 30-minute, 40-minute sessions, and that would actually be more beneficial. But to be honest, I'm not consistent with it. And if I'm not consistent with that particular thing, I will not see results. And the result of consistency should be this. If you're not improving from each repetition, then the whole point of that consistency fails. Now you're just being mindlessly consistent. That means you need to improve from repetition to repetition to repetition. And the space shouldn't be so much that there's so much time between each repetition to improve, but it should not be so less that you have no time to improve at all. And for me, twice a week seems like a nice enough space for me within the gym to see enough space for improvement, but at the same time, like enough room to learn, right? So that is the thing. But that's the keystone action right there. What is the keystone action? You show up to the gym twice a week, right? So another thing with the keystone action is everything with like you want to commit less and then slowly increase the thing over time instead of just committing more and then decreasing things over time. This is another thing that I'm slowly understanding or realizing. You wanna commit it twice a week in the gym, but you go more, right? Or once a week in the gym, and it's not a bad thing, right? It's 100% better than zero times, right? If you simply increase, if you go from zero workouts a week to once a week workouts, then you go from 0 to 100. You've created an additional 100% improvement, right? And every other workout is going to be like may not be 100% improvement. It was going to be 50%, 25%, but the initial ones are always very powerful. So that's why it's important to be effective more than effortful. Make effective decisions more than effortful decisions. I'm just learning a lot of things lately, so I'm just sharing everything as I learn them. So that is the second rule of commitment. First rule is have a strong desire towards something, and you want to know the appetite for that desire. Second thing that you want to do is what are the keystone actions of those commitments. And the third thing that you want to do is count the costs of your commitment. What are you going to lose? What are you going to sacrifice? This is one of the things I failed to do for many years. I used to commit to things and then I would not count the costs of those commitments, the time it takes, all the resources it takes. And then I would be sitting and wondering, oh boy, it's taking too much of my time. It's taking too much of my resources, too much of my thinking. Seems like I just simply did not understand costs. I did not understand sacrifices that needed to be made for that particular commitment. And know that with every commitment comes great results. But with great results comes great costs. So you need to ask yourself, what are the costs and are you willing to pay those costs? If you're not willing to pay those costs, here's what I've learned. What you can actually do is you can actually reduce the costs. Can you lower your commitments? Can you make the commitment in such a way that you're not paying too much of a price, right? You can get a bargain, trust me. Right? You just need a bargain. That's the thing. So you got to count the costs. Commitment requires sacrifice. What are the costs of your commitments? And then finally, the fourth rule of commitment is this. You got to act on your commitments, not on your feelings. That is from this book. And I like to, I recently got a saying from Leila Hormozi, an entrepreneur, a very talented operator. She has a saying which is, F your feelings, follow the plan. F your feelings, follow the plan. Obviously use the F word right there, so it makes for a more nicer way of saying those things. But I like to sort of keep it PG-13 here. F your feelings, follow the plan, meaning screw your feelings, follow the plan that you've laid out for yourself. But Cash, what if I don't feel like doing things? Maybe what if I needed a break? You're probably right. Then what you need to do is just adjust the plan in such a way in the future that you go according to things. You have to be flexible a little bit. So that's why you want to have a flexible commitment rather than such a rigid commitment, right? And flexibility is like one of my biggest things lately, right? Like I'm allowing myself to be flexible rather than rigid, right? Because it's the showing up that counts. It's being consistent that counts. And the way you do those things is being flexible and having a bit of scalability in your commitments. On days where you feel like it, you do more. On days where you don't, you do less, right? So that is the thing. But the fourth rule of this particular thing is you just simply have to do the thing when you need to do it, whether you feel like it or not. And that is it. That is the main thing. And if you find it hard for you to consistently follow the plan and your feeling says otherwise, then maybe you just need a different plan, right? If it happens consistently, right? Sometimes, like most of the times, you won't feel like doing the thing that you need to do. But once you start doing it, it's very easy. So those are the things. Those are the 4 rules of commitment. Have a strong desire, know the appetite for the desire, know the keystone actions for your commitment. That is number 2. Number 3 would be to, what is it? I'm trying to revise right here. Number 3 is count your sacrifices, count your costs. And number 4 is act on your feelings. No, sorry, don't act on your feelings. Act on your commitments, not on your feelings. I'd like to add number 5, which is be flexible with your commitments. As in, not be flexible with the commitment, be flexible with the plans that helps you reach your commitment. So those are the things. That's it for this week's podcast. Hope this was useful. What's your one commitment? And what are the 4 things? How are you going to sort of make sure you're going to do those things right here? For example, mine, draw daily. Go to the gym twice a week. Strength train, right? Those are my commitments. Actions are go to the gym twice a week. Sacrifices, I'm sacrificing 3 hours a week. Act on your feeling. I said act on your commitments, meaning I have to go to the gym whether I feel like it or not. And being flexible is like it doesn't have to be just those 2 days, Wednesdays and Saturdays that I go to the gym. It can be some other days as well. So this is an example. So yeah, give it a shot, see what you think. And yeah, that's it for this week's podcast. Bye-bye.